The city lights flickered through the misty evening air as Sophia walked along the cobblestone streets, her heart pounding with anticipation. Tonight was the night. The night she would finally confess her feelings to the man who had unknowingly stolen her heart. 4 months she had been exchanging messages with him, the one who made her laugh with his witty texts, who understood her thoughts before she even voiced them, who had been there during her darkest moments. It had started as something simple, a casual online exchange, but had quickly evolved into something deeper. Something real. And now she was ready to meet him. She tightened her grip on her phone, scrolling one last time through the messages. His name flashed across the screen, Ethan. Her breath hitched. Ethan. The man she had fallen for. The man she was ready to give her heart to. She had met him through Ryan, her longtime friend, no, her best friend. He had introduced them in a casual conversation months ago, and from that moment on, she and Ethan had bonded in a way she never had with anyone before. But what she didn't know was that the man she had fallen for wasn't Ethan at all. It was Ryan. The real Ethan had never been the one behind those messages. It had been Ryan all along. And tonight, everything was about to come crashing down. Sophia had always thought of Ryan as just her friend. They had grown up together, their lives intertwined through years of shared laughter, fights, and late-night conversations. He was the one who had been there through every heartbreak, every disappointment. But he had never been someone she saw that way. Or at least that's what she had always told herself. But Ryan had been in love with her for as long as he could remember. He had watched as she dated other men, as she cried over the ones who broke her heart. And he had never said a word. Because he was her best friend. Because she had never looked at him the way he looked at her. Until one night everything changed. It had started as a harmless mistake. Sophia had been upset over another failed relationship, venting to Ryan over text. But instead of texting from his phone, Ryan had grabbed Ethan's. The message had been meant for him, but in a split-second decision he had replied as Ethan instead. And she had lit up. She had responded with a warmth and excitement she had never shown him before. And he had been too much of a coward to tell her the truth. So he had continued. Texting her. Calling her. Being Ethan when he was really just Ryan, her best friend, hiding behind a name that wasn't his. And now here she was walking into a restaurant expecting to meet a man who didn't exist. Sophia's hands trembled as she smoothed down her dress, scanning the restaurant. Her heart raced when she spotted him, Ethan, sitting by the window, his familiar silhouette relaxed against the dim glow of the city beyond. She took a deep breath, smoothing down the nerves building in her chest, and walked toward him. But as she got closer, something felt wrong. Because it wasn't Ethan's easy grin that greeted her. It was Ryan. She stopped abruptly, her heart lurching in confusion. Ryan. Ryan's face was unreadable as he stood, his hands tightening into fists at his sides. Sophia. She shook her head, stepping back. What are you doing here? Where's Ethan? He swallowed hard, his throat bobbing. Sophia, there's something you need to know. Her world tilted. Everything clicked at once. The messages. The late-night calls. The way Ryan had always known exactly what to say. Her breath hitched. Oh my God. Ryan reached for her, but she stepped back. It was you. Her voice trembled, a mix of disbelief and anger. All this time? It was you. He exhaled shakily. Sophia, I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know how to tell you. Her hands clenched into fists. You lied to me. I was scared, he admitted, his voice raw. I was scared that if I told you the truth, you'd never look at me the way you looked at him. Tears pricked at her eyes. And you thought this was better? He hesitated, pain flickering across his face. It was the only way I could have you. Even if it was just for a little while. Her chest tightened. She wanted to hate him. He should hate him. But the worst part? The person she had fallen in love with, the person who had understood her better than anyone, had been him all along. And now she didn't know what to do. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything left unsaid. I need time, she whispered, stepping back. I need to think. Ryan's face fell, but he nodded. Take all the time you need. But as Sophia turned to leave, her heart ached in a way she had never felt before. Because even though she had fallen in love with Ethan, she wasn't sure if she could ever forgive Ryan. But even more terrifying, she wasn't sure if she wanted to stop loving him. The cold night air wrapped around Sophia as she walked out of the restaurant, her mind spinning. Her heart pounded so loudly she could hear it echoing in her ears. The betrayal, the deception, Ryan had lied to her, and yet he had been the one she fell for. Not Ethan. Not the idea of someone else. Him. But did that matter? Did love built on a lie deserve to survive? He didn't know. All she knew was that her best friend, the one person she had trusted more than anyone, had broken something inside her tonight. And she didn't know if it could be fixed. Ryan stood frozen as Sophia disappeared into the night, his heart sinking lower than he ever thought possible. He had expected her to be angry. He had expected her to lash out, maybe even slap him. But her silence, her retreat, that hurt more than anything. He let out a slow, shuddering breath and sat back down, rubbing his face in frustration. He should have told her from the beginning. Should have confessed before it reached this point. But how could he? How could he tell the woman he had loved for years that she had never even noticed him, not until he pretended to be someone else? His phone buzzed on the table, making him flinch. A message. Then, how did it go? Ryan clenched his jaw, fingers hovering over the screen. He wanted to throw the phone across the room. Wanted to go back in time and undo every choice that had led to this moment. Instead he typed back, Ryan, I lost her. Because that's what it felt like. Like he had lost Sophia before he ever truly had her. Sophia barely slept that night. Her mind replayed every conversation, every text, every late-night call, now with the knowledge that it had all been Ryan. It should change everything. It should make her hate him. But it didn't. Instead, it made her question everything. Because if Ryan had always been the one making her laugh, the one understanding her deepest fears and dreams, then why did it feel like losing him hurt more than losing Ethan? She groaned, rolling over in bed, staring at the ceiling. She needed answers. And as much as she hated it, there was only one person who could give them to her. Ryan. By the time she arrived at Ryan's apartment, her hands were shaking. She had rehearsed what she would say 100 times on the way over. But as soon as Ryan opened the door, all of it vanished. He looked awful. His usually messy but charming hair was even more disheveled than usual, his eyes tired and red-rimmed. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. Like a man who was already mourning something he knew he had lost. She inhaled sharply. Can we talk? His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed, nodding slowly. Yeah. She stepped inside, the tension thick enough to suffocate them both. Ryan closed the door behind her, running a hand through his hair before turning to face her. Say whatever you need to say, he said quietly. I won't stop you. Sophia crossed her arms. I just have one question. Ryan exhaled, nodding. Anything. Her voice wavered. When did you start loving me? His head snapped up, eyes widening. She had expected him to hesitate, to fumble for words. But he didn't. He took a slow step forward, his voice barely above a whisper. Since the moment you walked into my life. Sophia's breath caught. Ryan let out a shaky laugh, shaking his head. You probably don't remember, but we met when we were kids. You had just moved in next door and you were so mad about leaving your old house. You wouldn't talk to anyone for days. She blinked, vaguely remembering. Ryan smiled, though it was laced with sadness. I tried to make you laugh. Tried everything. And then one day I fell out of a tree right in front of you. Sophia's lips parted. Oh my God. He did remember. She had laughed so hard that she nearly cried, and from that moment on Ryan had been her best friend. Ryan ran a hand down his face. I knew even back then that you were going to be the most important person in my life. She swallowed, her throat thick with emotions. Then why lie? His expression darkened with guilt. Because I was a coward. Because I knew you would never see me that way. But when you thought it was Ethan. He exhaled. For the first time I got to know what it felt like to be him. To be the guy you chose. Sophia's heart twisted. Because as much as she hated what he had done, she understood it. She saw the fear in his eyes. The fear of being just the best friend. The fear of losing her completely. And it was that realization that made everything hurt even more. Ryan. She shook her head. I don't know how to fix this. His jaw clenched. I don't either. Silence stretched between them, filled with unsaid words and unspoken regrets. Finally, Sophia exhaled sharply. I need time. Ryan's shoulders sagged, but he nodded. Take as much as you need. But as she walked away, she knew time wouldn't fix the real problem. Because even if she could forgive Ryan, could she ever trust him again? Sophia spent the next few days in a daze, caught between the past and the present, between anger and longing. She had asked Ryan for space, but in reality she wasn't sure what she needed. How do you untangle love from a lie? Because despite the betrayal, despite the deception, her heart still ached for him. And that was the worst part. He should hate him. But she didn't. She just didn't know if she could ever love him again the same way. Ryan kept his distance. For the first time in years, he didn't text her good morning. He didn't call to tell her some ridiculous story about his day. He didn't show up at her doorstep with takeout when he knew she hadn't eaten. His absence was loud. And it hurt more than she expected. Because before this, Ryan had always been there. Even when she hadn't realized she needed him, he had always been waiting. Now there was only silence. And she hated it. It was a Thursday evening when she ran into Ethan. Not the Ethan she had fallen for, the Ethan she thought she had fallen for. The real Ethan. He was standing at a cafe counter, scrolling through his phone, completely unaware of her presence. For a moment she considered walking away. But then, as if sensing her, he looked up. Sophia. Her breath hitched, but she forced a smile. Hey, Ethan. He grinned, pocketing his phone. Wow, it's been a while. How've you been? She hesitated, unsure how to answer that question. It's been a weird couple of weeks. Ethan chuckled. Yeah. I bet. Ryan's been acting off lately too. Her stomach twisted. You've talked to him? He nodded, frowning slightly. He hasn't really said much, just that he messed up with you. She swallowed hard. He did, she admitted. Ethan studied her for a long moment before sighing. I gotta be honest, sophomore. I always knew he had feelings for you. She stiffened. What? Ethan leaned against the counter. Come on. Everyone knew. I mean, it was obvious to everyone but you. Her mind spun. Had she really been that blind? Had she missed something that was so painfully clear to everyone else? Ethan sighed, shaking his head. I don't know what exactly went down between you two, but I do know one thing. She looked at him, her throat tight. What? Ethan met her gaze. Ryan would rather destroy himself than ever hurt you on purpose. Her breath caught. Because as much as she wanted to argue, as much as she wanted to hold on to her anger, she knew Ethan was right. Ryan had lied. But he had done it because he loved her. And the truth was, he still loved him too. That night, Sophia sat in her apartment, staring at her phone. Her thumb hovered over Ryan's contact. She wanted to call him. Wanted to hear his voice. Wanted to tell him that maybe, just maybe, she was ready to talk. Instead, she found herself typing a message. Sophia, can we meet? Seconds later, the reply came. Ryan, whenever you're ready. Her heart pounded. Because for the first time since everything fell apart, she wasn't sure if she was running away from him anymore. Or if she was finally coming home. Sophia sat in the quiet cafe, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea, but she wasn't drinking it. Her nerves were coiled so tightly that she barely noticed the people around her, the hum of conversations blending into background noise. She had texted Ryan, and now she was waiting. For answers. For closure. For him. The bell above the door jingled and her breath hitched. Ryan stepped inside, his gaze scanning the room until it landed on her. For a moment neither of them moved. Then slowly he walked over. She forced herself to stay calm, to breathe even as her heart pounded in her chest. Ryan looked different, tired, like he hadn't slept in days. He slid into the seat across from her, rubbing the back of his neck. "Hey," he said, his voice rough. Sophia swallowed. "Hey." For a moment neither of them spoke. Then finally she found her voice. "I talked to Ethan," she said. Ryan stiffened, but he nodded. "I figured. He told me something interesting," she continued, watching him carefully. "He said that everyone knew you had feelings for me." Ryan exhaled sharply, his gaze dropping to the table. "Sophomore." She leaned forward. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" His hands clenched into fists. "Because I was terrified." She frowned. "Of what?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "Of losing you." Sophia sucked in a breath, her chest tightening. Ryan looked up then, his eyes filled with raw emotion. "You were always my best friend," he said quietly. "And I didn't want to ruin that. I didn't want you to look at me differently, to feel like I had some hidden agenda." She swallowed hard. "So instead you lied?" Regret flickered across his face. "I didn't plan to." She shook her head, frustration bubbling up. "But you did. And she exhaled shakily, struggling to find the right words. "I don't know how to fix that." Ryan's expression darkened with guilt. "I know." Silence stretched between them. For a moment she considered walking away. But then Ryan leaned forward, his voice soft but unwavering. "Sophia, if I could take it all back, I would. But not the way you think." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He met her gaze. "I wouldn't take back loving you," he said, his voice filled with quiet intensity. "But I would take back the way I told you." Sophia's breath caught. Because despite everything, despite the betrayal, despite the pain, she knew one thing for certain. He loved him too. And that terrified her. Sophia spent the next few days avoiding her own feelings. She threw herself into work. She ignored Ryan's texts. She tried to convince herself that she could move on without looking back. But at night, when she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, all she could think about was him. His voice. His laughter. The way he had always been there, even when she hadn't realized how much she needed him. She had spent so long searching for love in the wrong places. Had she really been blind to it all this time? She didn't have an answer. But she knew one thing. She needed to see him again. It was pouring when Sophia finally made her decision. The sky was dark, the streets empty, but she didn't care. She ran through the rain, her heart racing, until she reached his apartment. Her hands trembled as she knocked. Seconds later, the door swung open. Ryan stood there, his hair damp, his expression shifting from confusion to shock. "Sophia." She sucked in a breath, chest heaving. "I don't know if I can trust you," she admitted, rain dripping from her hair. "I don't know if I can ever forget what you did." Ryan swallowed hard, his grip tightening on the doorframe. "I understand." She took a step forward. "But I know that I love you." Ryan's breath hitched. Sophia's voice cracked. "And I think I always have." For a moment he didn't move. Then he pulled her in, his lips crashing against hers. And just like that, every lie, every mistake, every broken moment between them faded into the rain. Because in the end, love had always been there, waiting for her to see it. The rain poured around them, drenching them both, but neither Sophia nor Ryan cared. The world had narrowed down to this moment, to the way his lips moved against hers, hesitant yet desperate, like he had been waiting his entire life for this. Maybe he had. Sophia clung to him, her hands fisting his damp shirt as he pulled her closer. For weeks she had fought this. Fought the truth. But now there was no more running. He loved him. And she wasn't going to pretend otherwise. The next morning, Sophia woke up wrapped in warmth. Ryan's arms were around her, his chest rising and falling steadily as he slept beside her. For a moment she just lay there listening to the rhythm of his heartbeat. Felt right. Like this was where she had always belonged. And yet a small part of her still whispered, what if? What if she got hurt again? What if the past still lingered? What if love wasn't enough? Ryan stirred beside her, blinking sleepily before his eyes landed on her. A slow, lazy smile spread across his face. Morning, he murmured, voice thick with sleep. She swallowed the doubts creeping in and smiled back. Morning. He studied her for a moment, then brushed a stray strand of hair from her face. You're overthinking again. She sighed. I can't help it. Ryan sat up, resting his chin on his hand as he gazed at her. Talk to me. She hesitated before saying the words she had been afraid to voice. What if this doesn't work? Ryan's smile faded, but he didn't look surprised. Instead, he reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. Sophia, I know I messed up, he said softly. And I know I don't deserve for you to forgive me so easily. She looked away, her heart pounding. Ryan, but I also know that I love you, he continued, squeezing her hand. And I'm not going to let fear ruin that. Sophia's breath hitched. Because despite all her doubts, all her fears, she wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe in them. So she took a deep breath and met his gaze. Then let's try. Ryan's eyes lit up. Yeah. She nodded, her heart pounding. Yeah. Falling into a relationship with Ryan was both the easiest and hardest thing Sophia had ever done. Easy because he knew her better than anyone. Hard because trust had been broken once before. But Ryan never wavered. He showed up every single day. He proved in small ways and big that this time he wasn't hiding behind a lie. This time it was real. And as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Sophia realized something. She hadn't fallen in love with his best friend. She had always been in love with him. It had just taken her a little too long to see it. 1 year later, Sophia stood at the edge of a quiet lake, the golden glow of the sunset reflecting off the water. Ryan stood beside her, holding her hand, a nervous smile playing on his lips. Okay, don't freak out, he said, shifting from foot to foot. She raised an eyebrow. Ryan, you saying that makes me immediately freak out. He chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. Then taking a deep breath, he dropped to one knee. Sophia's heart stopped. I know this all started with a mess, Ryan began, his voice shaking slightly. And I know I spent too long hiding how I felt about you. But there's one thing I never lied about, and that's how much I love you. Sophia's throat tightened. Ryan pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, flipping it open to reveal a simple but stunning ring. So, Sophia, he continued, his eyes filled with everything he had never been able to say before. Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving to you that loving you has never been a mistake? Tears welled in her eyes. Because this moment, this man wasn't a mistake. It was fate. She dropped to her knees, cupping his face in her hands, and whispered, yes. Ryan let out a breathless laugh before pulling her into a deep kiss, the world fading away around them. And this time there were no lies. No misunderstandings. Just love. A love that had always been meant to be.